right, road dog, it's time to hit the road life for a while. Stop off and see the Citrus Center. I've been left. Katie left me. Not in that way. I don't think that'll ever happen. We get along so great. I don't think we've ever had even a disagreement or an argument. Nope, today I am headed north because I want to go visit my grandparent, well, my grandpa. I want to go see my mom, my stepdad, go visit my family, hang out with them till Easter, and then we're gonna make our way west after that. So figured I want to stop off in Jacksonville. There's a house I've wanted to see and a woman I wanted to talk about who is legendary in the music scene, and the people that she put in our lives changed our lives. Not only the people that, you know, I'm gonna tell you about, but also her son was very influential as well. But since I just got on the road and was just passing by the live gators and the Citrus Center, I thought, hey, why not stop in? They always have really great like wind chimes and tchotchkes and crazy stuff. What a great way to start. So let's do it. Daze with Jordan the Lion, it begins right now. Right away, they have a nice selection. I swear, I always want to get one of these. And I will at some point. I will end up having one of these at my house, but it's gonna be too long of a trip to have those guys riding along with. Some of the best oranges of my life on this trip, so yeah, if you're swinging through here, pick up some of the famous Florida oranges. Kind of like walking into a tiki hut. Yeah, good photo op with the shark. Oh, here you can buy your own shark, take home, or a Disney shirt. Or heck, get both. Let Minnie Mouse have a pet shark. Whoa. These are weird. They're like little shell dolls. Those are kind of cool though. Those bottles. Put your own liquid in there. And they're like shell themed. I know it's not dogs playing poker, but it's shells playing poker. How cool is that? Yeah, I would. This guy's got a cigar. Good grief, the guy in the yellow hat. Tons of local honeys and jams here. Over here you can actually get a free sample of orange juice if you're coming or going from here. Why not, right? By the description you might not think so, but that is actually a that's a little dessert. Chocolate covered peanuts and chocolate covered raisins. Dream catchers. Don't let them get away. Here's the little gator case. I noticed they're right in the back here. At least one of them or two of them right there. And a giant one right over here. You can actually buy one of the heads to go with you. Friend for the drive. This was a great stop, but let's hit the road. We got a lot of driving to do today. Don't worry though, we will see Katie very soon. We have a pretty good schedule worked out that we get to see each other. Won't be long. So we're going to Jacksonville because I want to see the home of May Axton. She was extremely influential, and she was also the writer of Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel. I have those little eyes staring at me the whole time I'm driving. They go in and out like he's sometimes asleep, but then every once in a while I look over and he knows I'm looking. Boom, there they are. Passing through a town I think was called Waldo, and I saw this place called Toomey Tools and saw their billboard off to the side, and I go, I know that guy. Check this out, look who their spokesman is. An unplanned stop, but I break for Jimmy the Mouth of the South Heart when I see him, and there he is. Look at that. He's even got his megaphone up there, baby. Yeah, baby, yeah, yeah. For as many things as WWE does wrong, and as much as I complained about the outcomes of WrestleMania, the one thing they got right is they inducted Andy Kaufman into the WWE Hall of Fame, and he absolutely belongs there. And Jimmy Hart was one of the people that got to induct him along with Jerry the King Lawler. Jimmy was Andy's manager for all those matches in Memphis. Yep, it's in Waldo. Waldo Farmers and Flea Market. Wish I had time to check it out. All right, we have made it over to the neighborhood that May Axton lived in the 1955-56 era. And you know, she's so important because not only did she co-write Heartbreak Hotel, but she was the person who introduced Colonel Tom Parker to Elvis Presley. So May Axton, I think a lot of her story, or a lot of what we know about her and her son Hoyt Axton, were that they were Oklahomans, and she met her husband there. She went to Oklahoma University and studied journalism, and then came out, became a teacher and a radio DJ. And then her husband, he was in the Navy, and he was stationed, well, they were sent to Jacksonville, and so that's how she ended up here. So her son Hoyt lived here with her. He became a really well-known, you know, artist in his own right. He wrote I've Never Been to Spain, which Elvis covered, Waylon Jennings covered. He also wrote Joy to the World, that Three Dog Night was known for, Greenback Dollar. He played Jennifer Marlowe's hometown boyfriend on WKRP. He was in movies with Charles Bronson, and he and his mother, May Axton, are, to my knowledge, the only mother-son team to have hit songs that Elvis Presley both recorded, and that was May Axton's Heartbreak Hotel and Hoyt Axton's Never Been to Spain. Now, what's interesting is that when she came here, she did a lot of jobs. She was a substitute English teacher while they lived in the house I'm going to show you, and she would find local young songwriters, and she was writing the lyrics while they wrote the music for songs. She had a radio show, a TV show, and she was doing public relations for Colonel Tom Parker's traveling concert series, and especially just for the Jacksonville, Daytona, and Orlando area. And during the time that she ends up getting the phone call that would kind of change her life to make her involved with Elvis Presley, he was working with Hank Snow, and Hank Snow had a tour coming through here. So let's go over to May's house, and I'll tell you about all the interesting things that happened at the time here and through this house. Excited to see the house of where Elvis's first million seller and first international #1 hit was written. How May became involved with Elvis is that, you know, she was doing PR for Colonel Parker, and there was a radio DJ out of Memphis named Bobby Neal who called her and had met her at radio conventions while she was doing radio and stuff, and said, hey, there's a boy here who has long hair and crazy clothes, but I really think he's got something, and I'm calling my friends that are DJs around the country to see if they can help me further his career, get him something. And I was hoping maybe you could get him put on a Colonel Parker show. And she said, well, I mean, I'll see what I can do. She hadn't heard his music or anything. A problem apparently was that, you know, even though Elvis had put out That's All Right Mama was on Sun Records, he really wasn't distributed all that well. So he had been playing for like 2 months in West Texas, and the people there loved him. They were going crazy for him, but nobody knew who he was here in Florida. So May she said she had her own show and was doing radio and everything. She got a couple of her friends that were radio DJs to play his songs, and got some ads for the Colonel Parker show. She said, okay, they can do it $50 a show. They can play Jacksonville, Daytona, and Orlando, I guess was the deal at the time. And so they agreed to do it. They came down, and the first show, she said Elvis was just absolutely amazing. Nobody here knew who he was, never had heard him or anything, but she said she was blown away by the fan response, and that the older people were enjoying him as much as the younger people were. She said she thought that was just so interesting that everyone was into the show. And she said Colonel Parker came backstage and said, who's this on stage? And she said, oh, don't worry, Colonel, it's not costing you a penny. But she said Hank Snow was the closer that night, and people went so crazy for Elvis that after that, Hank Snow didn't want to close. They made Elvis close so that they would keep all the kids and everybody there all night. And she said by the time they did the show in Daytona, Colonel knew what Elvis was and knew what he would have if he could get him, and set his sights on Elvis. And that's how that all started. Now, a lot of people, of course, will say, you know, the Colonel was the downfall to Elvis, but I really don't think so. I mean, I really think that without the Colonel, there really would be no Elvis the way we know Elvis. Colonel was 100% dedicated to Elvis's career at all times. Even when he was in the military, he had a plan that was successful where they would release records. They recorded records before Elvis went into the military, and then would release them, you know, sporadically while he was still in the military so people didn't forget him. But it was also the Colonel that made sure that Elvis got part of the publishing for every song. So Heartbreak Hotel is written by May Axton and a man named Tommy Durden and Elvis Presley. But it was actually written here by May Axton and Tommy Durden. What she said happened was that they she got a call from Tommy saying, "Hey, did you see the paper?" And I said, "No." And he said, "I'm coming over, I want to show you this." And they looked at the newspaper, and it was about someone who had taken their own life. And they had thrown away all of their identification and just wrote a note that said, "I walked this lonely street." And she said, "Boy, that line just hit us so hard." And I said to him, "You know, Tommy, no matter who you are, no matter what lot in life you have, no matter how much money you have, everybody has someone out there that loves them. And when, you know, the family of this poor person sees this photo and that they're trying to identify him, they're going to be heartbroken. So why don't we write our song using that line, and at the end of that lonely street is Heartbreak Hotel." And so she said 22 minutes later they had the song, wrote it in here, and you know, that was basically the way it went. I've also read that it was originally called Heartbreak Motel, but the interview I found with her, she didn't mention that at the time. So said this is where they lived when they wrote the song. Elvis would come back and he did interviews with May. So there's actually, like, in one of his earliest interviews is with her, where she's talking about people kind of consider him bebop music and everything, and she's talking about the fan response she's seen of his shows in Florida.
Down through Florida and around, and that the people went for you there about as well as out in West Texas, isn't that right?
Well, I wasn't very well known down here. You know, I'm just with a small company, and my records don't have the distribution that they should have.
I watched you perform one time down in Florida, and I noticed that the older people got about as big a kick out of you as the teenagers. I thought that was an amazing thing.
Well, I imagine just the way all three of us move on the stage.
And he was well documented as coming and visiting this house and visiting her, so pretty cool to see where Heartbreak Hotel, his very first international hit and song that earned him $1 million, came from. And the person who lives here now was so friendly. I went up because his dog was barking. I didn't want him to, you know, wonder what I was doing. I was just telling him I was an Elvis fan. He goes, "Yeah, I know about May Axton living in this house and everything." He said, "That's just so cool. Yeah, absolutely. Take all the photos you want and everything." So, what a nice person. 22 minutes after they wrote the song, they recorded the demo in that very living room. And countless people have recorded Heartbreak Hotel. I mean, that's just an absolute classic, so. She said she lived off that song for the rest of her life. Now, what else is cool, and the reason I wanted to talk about this, because she not only helped Elvis's career, without her, we may have not had a Dolly Parton, a Reba McEntire, a Blake Shelton, and to me, most importantly, would be a Willie Nelson. Willie was a local DJ, and he was writing songs where he lived in Texas, and he found out May was coming through locally, and he decided he wanted to go to her and play her some of his songs and see if he had any talent. And he went and played his songs for her, and she said, "First thing you need to do is get out of here and get yourself to Nashville. You are a great songwriter and an even greater performer. You have a voice that people need to hear." And he packed up and took off to Nashville, walked into Tootsie's, found a songwriter in there that he recognized, played him his songs, and they got him a songwriting job right there for $50 a week. And his recording career started up. Didn't go so well until he moved to Austin and took off, and he thanked May for the rest of his life for what she did for him. So thank you, May Axton, for Willie Nelson and Elvis Presley. I read that when Elvis first heard Heartbreak Hotel, he loved it so much, he asked May to play it for him, and he listened to it like 10 times in a row until he had it memorized. Then he recorded it 2 days after his birthday. Well, my friends, I don't think we're gonna find a cooler house to end on than this one. This thing is just magnificent and beautiful and full of character. And I hope you enjoyed this vlog. So I think we'll call it a night from a very epic house, a very beautiful house here. And we'll see you all next time. Have a great night and goodbye.